All right, we're ready to roll with another CIRF report. This one for the 21st of October to the 27th. It's from starting on Thursday, the day after the Aries full moon. So if you're listening to this on Wednesday, the 20th, we have the full moon, and it is gorgeous out there at night. Let's go surfing, and we have more T-squares this week. Could just throw that out there right now. So we have a lot more pressure, a lot more conflict, but there's an opportunity here, and I'm going to share that with you. Let's go to the summary slide. If you're new here, we triangulate for the biggest influence, and this is really helpful to know what your biggest influence is going to be this week is in terms of energy. But then, most importantly, towards the end of this CIRF report, this back half of this, we're going to triangulate for the solution. So you'll have one main behavior to maximize this energy that's afforded to us. And this week is about power. We're expected to benefit by the T-squares, by all the 90-degree alignments in the stars, because we're going to be faced with a situation that probably makes us realize just how much power we really had. Didn't know it until we were faced with this situation. So that's kind of where we're headed this week. And just really quick on this summary slide, again, there is a ton of stuff in the tropical astrology. We're only down to 2 retrograde planets, Uranus and Neptune. We have Mars combust. That's still a factor. But Sun's going to go, Sun, which was in a fall in sort of a uneasy feeling in Libra, is now going into Scorpio. The squares are going to dominate this week. We have a couple of T-squares. Then the Dreambot, I'm going to show you after our comment section, is the talking about power and movement. But once again, the Dreambot is not really profoundly all connected. There are these memes, to me, clear memes, but there's not a lot of words in them, so it's not very thick and numerous, if you will. So light. That's why the circle here on the Dreambot is small, because it's not really a profound, big meme. And then the I-Ching 26, hexagram 26 says containment of potential. That's sort of like a pressure cooker where you've got vapor and heating up, and it's trapped in there. And so there's more and more and more power that's being applied here. And so we put all that together, power and movement. You got the T-squares and the breakout of Mars and the Sun into Scorpio. Well, Mars doesn't go into Scorpio, but nonetheless, the Mars combust is getting weaker, which means that you're going to feel a little bit more power. So put all that together, I think it's consolidating power. It's realizing, it's aware of the power. There's another hidden square in here that's worthy of mention, and it's Mars square Pluto. And we're going to talk a lot about that, but that's in addition to this. It's forcing you to be aware and to struggle with this power differential or power awareness. So anyway, let's get going, and we're going to start with the comments next. And welcome. If you are new here, we are over in Rumble. Hello, everybody on Rumble, and it's growing over there, and it's also growing over on YouTube. I wanted to shout out to a couple people on Rumble. It's the first time ever I'm taking snapshots over on Rumble's comments. And Mills1 Oxford, shout out to you. Finally remember to subscribe on Rumble. Better late than never, I hope. Well, so I don't know if it's ever going to be too late. The way things are censored and whatnot, I think all of you should have both accounts. I don't blame anybody for not wanting to have a YouTube account. And so there's your alternative, is Rumble. No one you know is over there, and not for me to say. Big shout out to both of you for commenting and helping the algorithm over at Rumble. And then over at YouTube, shout out to Michelle. Always listen and like. Appreciate your work. Shout out to Saint Nobody for commenting there. And then we have a couple poignant comments. So first of all, Brian has several comments in there, and they're all very introspective and powerful, poignant. But this one in particular has to do with this week. Words have power. That we're not going to dive into how words have power necessarily, but you're going to start to see how just about everything we do has power. That's sort of the influence this week. And then Default talks about sleep. Definitely been sprung. Saw an astro post on Twitter about how changes recently manifest differently depending on moons in certain houses in your chart. Whatever mine are up to made my sleep feel like teen FOMO with dashes of that space you just can't stop eating despite ruining the food flavor and give you the runs. There's the point here is that I'm having a lot of clients that are experiencing sleep disruption, and there's a lot of explanation in the stars, but I would like to know if other people are having disruption in sleep. I did have a disruption prior to the full moon, so 2 days and yesterday. Anyway, last night was great. So I don't know. I was going to blame it on the full moon, but didn't seem to hold up. And then the winner of this week is the best comment is let us see it now, with 6 up arrows and 4 replies. So really good conversation there on YouTube. She says, remain calm in the aftermath. Otherwise, you may cause more harm for yourself and others. That's interesting. If we're reacting unconsciously, I think is where we start making more problems. That wasn't her words. That was mine. This is her words now. We are master manifestors. We are not what we think we are. We are what we most persistently think about we are. We are broadcast antennas, so broadcast the highest vibration of all, love. Make it your mantra, repeat it over and over in your mind, override the negativity of conditioned programming. Very well said. Now, before we get into astrology, let's get into the Dreambot just real quick. I'm zooming in. And there was some couple dysfunctional websites, dream websites. So the Dreambot didn't pick up what it normally picks up. And you can kind of see that with all these negative scores down here running about half of the typical run. The red arrows are movement. So wave, moving, shred, and parked. So moving or not. And it might be a rhythmic moving because the top word is wave. But like I mentioned, that top word, even though it's at the top, it's a very low surge score. So it goes in with the rest of the words, movement or not. And then the yellow orangey arrows are power. And these are more of absolute power. So Lord, universe, poles, like the North Pole, South Pole. And I was sort of interested to know, to connect poles with the movement, moving poles. Who knows? And then solid, but absolute power, last resort right there. You got to play on words. So anyway, power and movement. And then linguistic set number 1, wave, speaking, pulled wrong stuff. Interesting. I think that's what we've seen since, ever since the start of propaganda. But nonetheless, especially in this last year and a half, 2 years, is this a big old wave. But waves come and go, right? So should be ending at some point. The pendulum will swing to the other side of truth and disclosure and transparency. All right, let's get into astrology. Oh, let's darken this up first. And let me take a brief break. Thank you. All righty. We have Saturn square Uranus, and that is going to intensify the square of the status quo in Aquarius. So the freedom-oriented new status quo is being rubbed raw by this eccentric and mad scientist Uranus, and planet of freedom and individuality. And that's going to intensify as we go into December, I think, is when it reaches its exact point. We have the sun going into Scorpio over the weekend. And then what I wanted to point out is this combust. This is Mars combust. This is Sun conjunct Mars. This red line, it was really intense around the 8th. And it's getting lighter and lighter and lighter. And by the time this CIRF week ends, which is on this goalpost here, this black line, vertical line, it's almost non-existent. And both of these now, Mars is going to go into Scorpio, right? That's going to be the next CIRF week. And what that means is Mars is going to come out of both the combust situation, which is a weakening effect, and it's going to come out of Libra, which is a weakened effect. So you got a double weakened Mars we've been talking about. And that all profoundly ends in the next CIRF week. And so this week is about finding it's that growing sense of power within. It's coming back. And actually these T-squares and the squares themselves are going to add to this awareness. It's going to make you realize that there is a lot more power in there. So, all right, day-to-day, Tropical Astrology, October 21st. This is the Thursday, 21st. Yeah, there's a lot going on, but the main things here are, here's that inner power versus outer power. So the Pluto in Capricorn square, Mars in Libra. This is a weakened outer power, and this is a goal-oriented inner power. The Pluto is more of a subconscious type of power, and it can be very powerful. Some people think it's more of the intuition, but we also have Uranus is also the intuition, insight in the form of insight and ingenuity. But this can be intuition in the form of connecting you to the deepest aspects of soul, spirit, the superconscious, if you're into Edgar Cayce. Do I have this turned down? Okay. And we also, so this inner power, this is going to be squares is pressurized, conflict. And so that conflict between outer power and inner power is going to collide. And that tension and that disruption inside and conflict is going to force you to see this paradigm between outer power and inner power. It's going to tend towards the inner power, though, because, again, Mars is weakened doubly by being in Libra and by being in conjunction with the sun, 4 degrees out at this point, 4.5 degrees. So still in a combust phase. Then we have Mars trine Jupiter. So it's easy to overestimate. That's Jupiter is extremely optimistic, almost to a fault sometimes, especially on these easy energies, these trines. So it's easy to overestimate the ability to carry something out. So then again, it's going to exacerbate this power continuum where maybe you think that you have more power than you do. It's sort of an illusion. Although Jupiter isn't all that illusionary, it's going to go too positive. So overly optimistic about the things that you can carry out. Then this square kicks in because then you go start doing your outer power thing, your action, your behavior, and realize, I don't know if I have this energy for this. But then this kicks in and says, yes, you most certainly must get this done. But it's more of a subconscious influence. So all that's going to be taking place pretty much all week. But this is strongest today. Thursday, 21st. Then you have 2 squares here because the moon's going to make a conjunction with Uranus. So you've got a double square like the things that I mentioned before. It's going to be extra emotional because that's the moon with eccentric and mad scientist Uranus. So all the things we mentioned before with the rubbing the status quo and making it and honing it into more of an Aquarian status quo. Oh my gosh, beautiful. Let's see, I think that's about it. There's obviously more, but we're going to talk about those as we go along because the other ones are getting stronger. Going into Friday, the 22nd, it looks like a T-square, but it's not because we got that opposition that is outside of the orb. So you just have a double square on Saturn. So it's a major onslaught of pressure on this new oyster called Saturn. And Saturn represents government, police state, policing, foundation, coldness, hardship, but also status quo. So all those things getting honed, getting rearranged into an Aquarian view, which is disclosure, freedom, transparency, knowledge, even harmony at a unity at a collective level while maintaining inner individual freedoms. It's not collectivism. I think collectivism would be more over on Pisces with the interconnectivity. All right, Saturday, 23rd. We have this hidden grand air trine, and it's with Mercury, which is going direct now, Saturn, and the moon. So it's a very temporary thing because moon whips around there pretty fast. But the grand air trine makes it easy to rationalize things. And because one of those points is the rational planet of Mercury. And now one of the points is the emotions, but that brings, it's easy to have more rational emotions. And you got the North Node over here. So emotions are more around logical, being able to view the future. Emotions in this case, but easily assimilate with what's mental. So what's logical, and in Libra, it's more towards balance, justice, those kinds of themes. It's easy to bring the emotions into that mix, and they're going to be more logical towards the future, North Node. Meanwhile, you've got that Saturn double square thing as well. And most importantly, you've got the sun coming out of Libra and going into Scorpio. Scorpio is a deep, powerful, deeply like a deep, dark power. Dark, not in like evil or anything. It's just those waters down at the bottom of the ocean. They're really dark. And there's just a lot of hidden things. It's hard to see down there. Now, the sun doesn't have too much of a problem other than things might get a little bit more vindictive, more obsessive, that sort of thing. And that's okay because the sun was in a fall, or things were just hard for your ego in Libra. It's just hard for the sun to be there. Things are harder. So things ease for ego, but you're going to get down into these deep, dark waters, and that might be uncomfortable for some of you. Now, meanwhile, Mars is still about 5-6 degrees, working on 6 degrees away. So your yang, your power, your outer power, Mars, is getting a little bit more powerful, but still in the weakened state of Libra. Oh, and then there was one more. There's the rational. So Mercury also has a pretty exact, it's going to be exact here next day. Mercury adjusts to or in conjunct with Uranus. And so you're adjusting to, I said fantasy. It's not true. I was thinking of Neptune, but this is change. It's adapting to change. Mercury is adapting to change, and instructed by this new status quo thing that's pressurized by the change as well. So Sunday the 24th, we have another grand air trine, this one now on Mars. So the moon is progressing far enough to where it has another trine with Mars, and then the same sort of thing. So things are still rational now with a weakened yang ability. It's not like Mercury is done, but the air signs are speak to things that are rational, and we get along with each other and that sort of thing. However, there's a T-square, Neptune, Moon, and Venus. And Venus is in Sag. We haven't been talking about her, but this is a very important T-square. The Venus is going to go a little bit further into 20 degrees of Sag and then make an exact conjunction with Uranus. And that's like this pressure mixing fantasy with or expectations with relationship. So I see the obvious problems. You fall in love with a expectation instead of the raw, the real other person. And so this can be a really tricky alignment with Venus that just wants to go have fun and now and spontaneous and zoom, they're gone, and fire. That's conflicted with the expectations and the fantasy. It can also produce that pressure to go seek fantasy. So there you have it. Be watching out for that. And it's a trap. The Neptune is the trap. So fantasy, the unrealistic, the expectations, the future that hasn't happened yet, the past that's getting muddled and you don't really have good memory of it now, you think you do. That's all Neptune. And escapism is Neptune. So that's the trap. And it's pretty easy in this case when you find yourself in the trap of Neptune is go to the opposite side, but just slide over just a little bit and you've got yourself a grand air trine. So just, to be in mind is not so bad. Mercury's got some adjusting to do with change. That's it. But he's doing great. And then everybody else, including the emotions this is on the weekend, basically. Emotions are rational. Jupiter is rational because it's the grand air trine. But don't forget, you can be taken into this Neptune thing and it's a web. It can toss you around. Monday, the 25th, pretty much everything we've already talked about, but the grand air trines go away. And now we're just left with a bunch of squares. You're going to see that continue as we go along the rest of the week. We have this goes exact, or it's getting very climaxed, which is Venus square Neptune, which I already mentioned before. So that's getting stronger. That's probably the strongest energy here. And you can see Mars square Pluto. That is starting to wane now, indicated by the segmented square by about 2 degrees. So that's getting a little weaker. Mars itself is getting stronger. Your power is getting stronger and growing. We're in the last stages of Mars being in Libra. That won't take place. That transition into Scorpio won't take place until the following CIRF report or CIRF week. But the sun now is finding a lot more power. Things are a little bit easier to get along into the world. The ego can adjust a lot more. Not that Scorpio is adjustable. It's just that by being out of Libra, the sun now, the ego, things are a little bit easier. There's no problems per se. And then we get into Tuesday. You can see more squares. Saturn's got the double square. You've got the moon setting another one. And this goes exact. Venus square Neptune. So it's at its highest is the relational and fantasy and escapism pressure. So watch out for that. By Wednesday, then, the Venus and Neptune are still very strong. And then you've got Pluto now with starting an early square with Mercury. You got 2 in conjuncts, but it's just the mess mostly is squares. So it's conflicted, but where there's conflicted and pressure, this is the energy that's going to exacerbate you realizing how much power you actually have. Now let's shift gears here because we're going to get into the I-Ching, and it's hexagram 26. It's the containment of potential. This points to the command and control of great power. There's that word power again. A power that increases as it is wisely stewarded. So there's not a lot of things that they want you to do with this power just yet, but remember, this is the influence. There's going to be a lot of influences, according to the stars, that are going to represent or to invigorate power and to give you the awareness of that power. So like a river that has been dammed or a pot of boiling water with a lid clamped on it, holding and containing power produces enormous potential. Focused attention is required to channel this potential and achieve supreme success. You have considerable reserves of energy and support to draw upon. This is an excellent time to nurture creativity by collecting and organizing your best ideas and plans. Good fortune comes to those who unearth such valuable treasures by applying the lessons of the ages to their current situations. This is asking you to learn from the past that adds to your concept or awareness of power. It's worthy to talk about our lines. We have 3 of them. We have line 1. A changing line in the first position indicates restraining an impulse to act at this time. You may wish to make strong advances, but there seems to be an obstacle in your way. Isn't this amazing? This is the 3rd week in a row where the I-Ching was telling us the same thing, which is only small steps. This week, because of all this conflict, it's about gathering your power, realizing that you have it, but not using it just yet. It's not these big, but it's not like do nothing. It is moving forward, again, just like the last couple of weeks, but it's small steps forward. Compose yourself and wait for a better time to vent your pent-up energy. So planning is involved here as well. Line 4, taking early precautions to restrain a wild force can prevent misfortune. Prevention is always better than a cure. If and when disruptive forces threaten, extraordinary measures may be necessary to subdue them. When confronting a powerful force, it is often best to meet the challenge through indirect action. The agile martial artist handles a formidable enemy not by blocking his path, but by deftly stepping aside. These sound more like action items, but they're in preparation for the solution. So let's do it. We're ready. Solution. When you put the change lines in, you get every yang line except the bottom line. Line 1 is the yin line, mountain over wind, which sounds sort of odd, but it comes out to 44, liaison. That sounds like negotiation. A traditional Chinese image is of a bold but immature young woman using her charms to gain influence over someone in a position of power. There's that power again. Ironically, the powerful person dallies with her, thinking it can do no harm. Famous last thoughts. When power shifts into the hands of those who are not prepared for it, misfortune can come to all parties. Still, you need not fear meetings with those whose positions are different from your own, as long as you are free from ulterior motives. So that's the action item number 1 in our solution is check your motives. Next, be wary of temptations that arise because of the power of your position, or conversely, your connection to someone in an important position. Combat temptations to take unfair advantage of power differentials. As soon as you become aware of a dangerous liaison, promptly speak up or step away. Basically, here is watch out for cheating. And cheating is courting, it's taking an unfair advantage. It doesn't mean having an advantage is bad or brings suffering. It means unfair advantage. There's a difference. And that really goes back to the motives as well. When honorable and balanced, there are indeed times when a rendezvous of the yielding and the strong turns out to be a great opportunity for a positive and constructive relationship. That speaks to the relationship between Mars, the outer power, and Pluto, the inner power. Even though they're in conflict this week, and it should produce a lot of pressure, it means that it still can be honorable and balanced. Just like it's saying, the difference between careless connection and a relationship of depth lies in the motives of one heart. How sincere are you? Alrighty, now, what I did here in order to convert this power, but the biggest power change this week is the sun going into Scorpio. Next week, the biggest power will be Mars exiting the conjunction 8-degree orb and entering into Scorpio as well. Mars actually returns home to Scorpio when that happens. Get my darkness out. And so what I wanted to see was the exact time in order to convert into the rave. I needed to see when the sun actually goes into Scorpio for when this power change happens. Because remember, sun was negatively impacted by Libra. And so at 11:52 Friday evening on October 22nd, this is when the sun goes into Scorpio. So right then we have hexagram 50 in the rave, and we have Sidereal Virgo as our solution. All right, first, hexagram 50, the gate of values. The 50th gate guards and maintains. This is the gate of values. It is the gate of tribal law. It is the key gate in our well-being process. It is the heart of our personal immunity and our capacity to both assess and defend. Expression of this capacity is through values. It is our values that are in the foundation of our defense. We've been hammering on values for many, many months. It's all throughout 2021, it seems. And this is especially important. So let's get into the lines now. Again, we're at sun goes into Scorpio, so 0 degrees, Scorpio, 0 minutes. It's line 4, corruption. It's lack of enriching values. Now, as the sun goes into Scorpio, write that at 0. Mars is in detriment. Mars, when sun goes into Scorpio, Mars is in Libra, which is in detriment. So we have to read this line. With such energy and no traditional values, the worst can be expected. The potential disregard of values that may lead to corruption or the breakdown of the defense system. Now, they don't specify what the defense system is. It's metaphoric. It's as above, so below. So as Mars, which is the outer protection, the outer warrior, is in detriment, now it means you are a little bit more vulnerable. And we are more vulnerable. And as above, so below. So the defense system is weakened. That includes the immune system, the personal immune system. So it's all interrelated here. And unfortunately, it warns us when Mars detriment, sun goes into Scorpio, corruption, degradation of values, not just in yourself, but around the collective, the worst can be expected. Now, what I wanted to do really quick is to give you sort of a heads up. I don't normally do this, but there's a lot of important timing in here that we can ascertain because Mars is not going to be detriment forever. When Mars goes into Scorpio, it becomes out of detriment. So that's October 30th. And that would be, I think, a Saturday, the day before Halloween, which I believe is a Sunday. And Mars is going to get out of Libra and come back to righteous place. Still squared, of course, but we're worried about just getting the fundamental energy back from Mars, getting your fundamental yang back. And that happens October 30th in the morning. But still technically within 6.5 degrees of the sun at that time, so still a little bit weakened. Not by much, but still a little bit. Now, when you get outside of 8 degrees, Mars at this time, so November 1st at 7:21 in the morning, or just sometime in the morning, this is central time, your yang, your power, your outer power, your ability to get stuff done is going to be maximized now because you're in Scorpio. Scorpio is home, is the ruler of Scorpio. And so now you get all your power back because you're outside of the 8-degree orb of the sun, so no longer combust. Pow. This is the change of the power that you're seeing as the influence. And so now we have all that done. I just wanted to give you those dates to expect because it represents a lot of changes that you can do in terms of projects and action and motivation levels. All right, so solution slide. So this is important. Here's our influence. Is, like these last couple weeks, like Ravi was saying, is that the psyche, the individual psyche looks like at a collective level, generally wanting to wait for the superhero. And in this diagram, this is what this week is about, is realizing that this inner power, it really is us. It's me. And this is more of an illusion, waiting for the superhero to show up when all you have to do, and that's what let us see it now is saying as well, is that we have it in us, and that was what Ravi was saying. That's what I'm saying as well, and that's what the alignment for Mars square Pluto is saying, that the inner power has the authority this week in that conflict between the two. So a lot of internal trust, and the pressure that you're going to feel from the squares, the T-squares, the escapism, all those traps can be debilitating. But if you remember this, they're also going to be empowering. All right, here's the solution then. So it's one thing to know that you're going to be faced with situations to increase and enhance your awareness of your power. But what do we do with it? Recall that the I-Ching 44 says liaison. So we're looking at negotiating, balancing minds, balancing your power, and balancing relationship. Clear up your motives and foster sincerity. Don't cheat. Don't take an unfair advantage. The rave says historical continuity whose traditional values serve and enrich the present and future. Worst can be expected. And we are not going to, but other people will disregard their values, and that will lead to a breakdown of the defense system. Then we have the Virgo sidereal solution, and we've seen her for a few weeks in a row now. So we're already used to that. So let's do it. As soon. All right, let's start over. As Sun and Mars finally, let's start over. As Sun and Mars finalize their predictably weak journey, we pop out into what could be a complete breakdown of the defense system. whatever that means. I'm hoping it's just at a personal level, but as above, so below. Imagine most people in that breakdown. Imagine what they're feeling: scared, hopeless, scatterbrained, possibly feeling like they have no power. Imagine yourself then in that breakdown, remaining balanced, negotiative, sincere, committed to your values, confident, realizing your power. Resist the urge to gain the unfair advantage. Advantage isn't wrong unless it's unfair, so it doesn't mean you can't get to higher ground or get more, as long as everyone has the same opportunities. And it's not at the expense of other people. That's where you get the unfair advantage too. Use the Sidereal Virgo solution to remain analytical. Remember Grand Air Trine as well. Helps this week. So remain analytical, responsible, practical, and discriminate. Watch out for people pleasing. Always stay resolute on your values, as we have done pretty much all of 2021. Rave says to expect the worst. But how about we prepare for the worst, but expect the best? It's important that we put the right vibe out, because we do have a say and we do create our reality, or we help create. We are all co-creators in this reality. Traditional values may collapse this week and a breakdown might happen. Stay balanced, relax your body regularly, rely on strong relationships, and use anxiety or use fight or flight to your advantage. And I have ... because I thought I needed to explain that a little bit. I have a little bit of time. So we know in psychology research that a little bit of anxiety can go a long way for increasing performance. But it's when anxiety gets too high that, you start trembling, or your palms start sweating, or your heart is like, you can hear your heart pounding. Well, that can really get you so scared, but that might lead to panic. But bottom line is your performance actually degrades with too much anxiety. So what you want to do is not get your anxiety down to 0, because that actually reduces your performance too. It's more like anxiety goes up, performance goes up, but then anxiety keeps going up, then performance crests and goes down. So it's more like a hump like that. And you want to get max performance is where the just right amount of anxiety. I think for most people, somewhere around 3 to 4 out of 10 would be the right amount of anxiety. So have a little bit. It makes you a little bit more aware. It focuses your awareness into more of a concentrating and higher ability to remain on attentive. Makes you more attentive and be able to concentrate. And it heightens your awareness abilities as well. Heightens your performance levels. We know that test scores go up with a little bit of anxiety. So there are some things that you can do to bring the anxiety down. So if you had like a 7, 8, 9, 10 anxiety, you can use some breathing techniques. You can use some imagination, imagining yourself at maybe a warm campfire or something calming like a beach. And you can bring your heart rate down into that sweet spot of 3 to 4 instead of 7 or 8. But you don't want to bring it down to 0, because your performance goes down. You want to be with good performance here, but you don't want long-term chronic anxiety. That will kill you slowly. All righty. What did I leave out, everybody? Thanks for being here. Thanks for commenting over on Rumble. Thanks for commenting over on YouTube. And thanks for all your shares. We are growing, and it's because of you all. Thank you. Hopefully this world stays intact. Can you feel the changing energies? I'm seeing a lot of people on social media And I have a few clients that are ahead of the game, high awareness, and they tend to, or I tend to see a lot more people saying that they feel some sort of changes, a positive shifting is happening. I'm seeing it too. I don't have an outright absolute feeling on it. I'm not convinced of it just yet, but I do sense some shifting happening. And I do have some evidence for it too. All right. We'll see you next week, everybody. You take care of yourself. Stay with your values. And just be real. Let's make this world better. How about it? See you next week, everybody. Bye.